Chicago Tonight, Black Voices is made possible in part by Fifth Third Bank and by the support of these donors.
At Fifth Third, we believe when diverse voices are heard and empowered, communities are made stronger, lives are made better, and the future holds greater promise for all. That's why we're proud to support Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can drive change.
Good evening and welcome to Chicago Tonight Black Voices. I'm Angel Ito. Brandis Friedman has the evening off. Thanks for sharing a part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, vaccine mandates are being put into place in some cities and sectors. Will those policies disproportionately disenfranchise the Black community, which lags behind in vaccination rates? Local relief efforts are underway in the aftermath of a powerful earthquake in Haiti. Plus, a look at the life and legacy of a Chicago musician lost to gun violence this week. Coffee, hip hop, and mental health. A musician gives us the last word on normalizing therapy in the Black community.
No, nobody knows.
And older artists are getting a second chance at stardom through the efforts of a local record label. First off tonight, this month, Chicago officials report more than half the city's population, 52.3%, is fully vaccinated against COVID-19. But despite efforts to get vaccines to Black and Latino communities, both groups continue to lag behind in vaccination rates. Now, according to city statistics, nearly 62% of white Chicagoans are fully vaccinated, compared to about 38% of Black Chicagoans. Now, with the Delta variant raging, some city governments and employers are imposing vaccine requirements for workers and customers. The hope is these policies will motivate those who are hesitant to get their shots, but some worry it will have the unintended consequence of shutting residents out of services and employment. Joining us with more now are Karen Freeman-Wilson, President and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, and Dr. Claudia Fegen, Cook County's Health Chief Medical Officer. Now, Dr. Fegen, let's begin with you. Do you support vaccine mandates for public-facing workers?
I do. I think that we take care of patients, well, everyone, when they're sick or in a vulnerable position, and they don't expect us to allow them to be placed at risk by having someone take care of them who could possibly be infected with COVID. So I think it's an obligation we have to the people we take care of and to each other. So we thought about it long and hard and decided on a vaccine mandate to protect our workforce as well as to protect the patients we take care of on a daily basis.
Now, Karen Freeman-Wilson, I want to ask, what do you believe is behind the continued lag in vaccination rates amongst Black Chicagoans?
I think that for some, it's accessibility. You know, we know that they have them in retail outlets, but even with that, people don't necessarily live as close or as proximate as they could, and so it's difficult to get there. But I also think that there was so much misinformation thrown at the public initially, it is hard to cut through with the accurate information. And then the fact that it's a changing virus is also, I think it attributes to the hesitancy.
Absolutely, and that actually leads me to my next question. Dr. Fegen, how do you address vaccine-related conspiracy theories in the Black community, specifically like the virus being man-made?
So you have to meet people where they are, and you have to meet them with trusted voices in the community. So when I have a patient who I have an ongoing relationship with, and we've forged that relationship over time, then it's easier for me to explain to them what's fact and what's fiction. But the other necessity is for people who do not have a relationship with a physician. Where can they get that information? So meeting folks and talking to folks in the community, meeting them at places that they're familiar and comfortable with, where we can have frank and honest discussions, it's important. So people need to have that one-on-one communication and not just see it on print or on the internet or on television. So it's a continuous battle, and it's reaching people one-on-one.
Absolutely. Now, Karen, are you worried that these vaccine mandates are going to shut Black people out of services and opportunities?
I think whenever you have mandates, you have to think about why they're being placed. And the health and safety factor here far outweighs the concern about shutting people out or creating a barrier. But I do think we should keep data. And if we look at the statistics and come up with innovative ways to encourage people, in spite of their hesitancy or their refusal to get vaccinated, that could counter any barrier that is created by mandates. But we absolutely support barriers because our health depends on it.
Absolutely. And then just kind of looking at the solution, Dr. Fegen, do you think that Chicago could benefit from some of these policies, like the ones that were introduced in New York and San Francisco that require proof of vaccination before entering public spaces?
Yeah, I think that is an opportunity. There are one of the hardest groups for us to get vaccinated right now are young folks. And some of them have some hard, fast beliefs, but many of them is just convenience. And I noticed that in Chicago, as we saw various venues, music venues and bars and restaurants start to require vaccine, that a lot of the 20-somethings and 30-somethings said, okay, it's too much of an inconvenience now, and they are getting vaccinated. So I think that these requirements for vaccine and inconveniencing folks who want to do certain things will help because these are folks who don't have hard reasons why they won't get vaccinated. They just haven't felt a need prior to this.
So based on that answer, Karen, do you think that the city and state governments should be encouraging like a vaccine uptake in the Black community? And if so, what steps do you think that they should be taking?
Well, you know, what I will say is that I've seen both city and state encourage vaccines through advertising, through social media and other things. I think that the idea that they will go door to door is something that is a possibility and something I certainly support, even supported by the city and the state. And I also think meeting people where they are, taking mobile vaccine trucks to church, to liquor stores, to other social settings, to clubs. I think that when you do that, you have an opportunity to get people vaccinated because they don't then have the excuse that it's too hard or it's not convenient.
And Dr. Fegen, what about you? What sort of solutions do you think that the city could take to increase vaccine intake amongst Black Chicagoans?
I think that Karen's on the right track. You know, I know that we have been successful in other times, for example, talking to people in nail salons and barbershops about cancer screening. And I think that's a place where people can have a comfortable conversation, have their questions answered, and feel reassured. So when they see somebody who looks like them and talks like them and can answer their questions, you know, very patiently, people respond to that. That's showing genuine interest and care. And I think that for too long, we tried to do a one-size-fits-all, and that's not working for the majority of folks who are not vaccinated. Blacks represent 16% of the population, but only 11% of those people who are vaccinated right now.
Absolutely, and I think that you all kind of summarized the next steps perfectly in thinking about meeting people where they are and what that looks like. So our thanks, many thanks to Karen Freeman-Wilson and Dr. Claudia Fegen.
Thanks so much, Angel.
Thank you.
Up next, Brandis Friedman on local relief efforts following the devastating earthquake in Haiti. That's a conversation recorded earlier.
A tropical storm has brought drenching rains to Haiti just days after a massive earthquake struck the country. The earthquake's epicenter on the west side of Haiti reverberated throughout the country and surrounding islands and has caused more than 1,900 deaths and left almost 10,000 injured. In Chicago, local organizations are working to send over resources like food and funds for rebuilding. Joining us now with more on that are Elsie Hernandez, the president and founder of the Haitian American Museum of Chicago, and Marc-Yves St. Victor, the Consul General of Haiti in Chicago. Thanks to you both for joining us. Marc-Yves St. Victor, let's start with you, please. I think you both have family and friends there in Haiti. What do you know about how they're doing right now?
It's really heartbroken for me, having that people calling from Haiti asking for help because of that earthquake happening that Saturday. The situation over there is really worse. And as you mentioned before, there's that tropical storm, Grace, bringing rains and rain in the southern part of Haiti, already affected by this tragedy, and it's really difficult for them.
Elsie Hernandez, how about you? How would you say family and friends there are doing?
Well, they are basically, my brother have children that are living and were raised in Campirin, in the south side of the country where a lot of damages have occurred. And unfortunately, they have lost their home. So I have a personal tragedy within my own family. So not only my family, but there are many, many families within that region of the country in Campirin that are really suffering. Churches and schools and everything else have been demolished or destroyed. So it's very difficult because they have water, they don't have a place to stay, they're mostly homeless. And so we're hoping that eventually the government or the NGOs will come sooner than later to help these people.
And I'm sorry to hear about that tragedy within your own family. Marc-Yves St. Victor, what resources would you say are most needed on the ground there in Haiti?
We almost need everything. That's know that with the earthquake, everything has been destroyed. Roads, schools, church, hospital are overwhelmed. So we need like clothes, tents, medical supplies, masks. As you know that COVID is raising again. So everything counts. Every gesture counts. So we need a lot of help to be able to provide them to these people affected by this strike.
And of course, we know that this quake comes at a time that the country has been dealing with the assassination of the president just last month. How has the government's response been there?
Yes, the government is actually having boots on ground, and they are working hard to bring helps that they can to the population. We have the Ministry of Working and our public working that already going over there with trucks and other engines to try to remove people under the demolished house. As well, we have help from USAID. That bring 65 people, 65 helpers that help the government as well.
Okay, and Elsie, what action would you like to see from the U.S. government?
I would like the U.S. government to understand that the need of the people is the priority. So the mass of the people that are homeless and without a home and that are suffering, that are hungry, and that way somehow they have a program for these individuals, and not, not giving money to the government per se, but to find a way to manage to provide the direct aids to the people themselves. So this is so important. We learned from 2010 that it was a complete disaster what happened to the money that came to Haiti. So definitely the U.S. needs to understand that the people on the ground are the ones that really need the help.
And on that note, because as you just mentioned, there were issues with people receiving the money that was donated after the 2010 earthquake. How do people ensure that the money that they are donating will actually get to the people who are on the ground there in Haiti?
Yes, of course, we learned from 2010, and to prevent that, the government has created an emergency board advisory called Centre d'Opération Nationale, and we urge everybody to go through that management crisis because they know everything. They know where to help, what are the needs of the communities, and they can redirect the help bringing to these people to the right place.
Best of luck to you both, Elsie Hernandez and Mark-Yves St. Victor. We're out of time. Thanks to you both for joining us. Back with more Chicago Tonight Black Voices right after this.
Now, tucked away in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood, there's a record label breathing new life into forgotten music of the past. Chicago Tonight's Evan Garcia explores the musical world of Numero Group.
Music has always been a driving force for Andre Gibson. More than 40 years ago, while in college, he formed the Universal Togetherness Band.
During the process of our performing, we were recording. We were getting all this free recording time from Columbia College, the engineering department.
In 1982, the group performed on the local variety TV show The Chicago Party.
We did this tune called Pull Up, and the rest is history. We had these red satin outfits on, and with the fringes that my mom had made for us, and it was pretty cool.
After a potential deal with Mercury Records fell through, the band broke up in the mid-'80s without releasing any music. That was until the Chicago record label Numero Group discovered the band while combing through the TV show's archives for a separate project.
The main obstacle to them being discovered before this is that they had never put out any records whatsoever. So really there's a very small chance of Universal Togetherness Band ever being discovered, and we got lucky enough to discover them.
More than 30 years after Gibson recorded the music, Numero Group released it to the world. Rob Sevier and Ken Shipley started Numero Group in 2003. The archival music label specializes in releasing music from forgotten artists of the past.
So we have what's known as the hits, right? You've got your Frank Sinatra's, your Earth, Wind & Fire's, your Pat Benatar's, whatever, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that's underneath there that for one reason or another didn't make it, right? So for an artist like T.L. Barrett, for instance, it's like, his Like a Ship is, to me, probably a better record than Aretha Franklin's Amazing Grace, but circumstance and timing kind of kept it down, and now it's being, because of our work, it's being lifted back up to its sort of rightful place.
Nobody knows all my sorrow.
Southside pastor and gospel singer T.L. Barrett recorded music in the 1970s with his youth choir that's now being sampled by Kanye West, DJ Khaled, and used in TV, film, and advertisements.
It is really wonderful. No, but not just for me, but for those young people that I promised that their labor would be productive and that they would hear their songs on the radio. I didn't know it was going to take this long, but that it would be trending. And now they are telling their children and their grandchildren, that's me. I'm in the alto section. It's really beautiful.
Numero Group releases music spanning several genres, from the 1950s to about 2000. Shipley says online data helps direct the label.
What's so fascinating about what's happening in the digital space now is that the stats are telling us what people like. So you can look at something and be like, God, this has got 1 million streams. Maybe we should press that because this artist has 400,000 followers, and now there's an opportunity to maybe sell a lot of records.
This was mine.
Gibson says this musical second chance opens new doors for him.
I see a resurgence of old school being meshed up with the new beats. They have the technology, but they're looking for the content. And see, I got a full bag of content. Where there is love, filled with desire.
For Chicago Tonight, this is Evan Garcia.
Let it take you higher. Well, there is
Now, Numero Group says their standard agreement with artists is a 50-50 equal split of profits. On September 24th, the label will release a career-spanning box set by Pastor T.L. Barrett titled I Shall Wear a Crown. Visit our website to hear more music from Numero Group artists. Coffee, hip-hop, and mental health. That sounds like three completely unrelated concepts, but for Chicagoan Christopher Lamarck, those things collided at a crossroads for him. Here, Lamarck gives us the last word on making mental health therapy normal and accessible for all who need it.
I am Christopher Lamarck. I'm the founder of Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health. And I want to tell you how this whole thing came about. I was sitting inside of Starbucks pre-COVID, October 2018. I took a break from work. I was working a pretty crappy job. I wasn't in the best relationship. I was having a hard time trying to figure out what was next. I was getting ready to turn 40, and I didn't own anything. So my life, to me, was in shambles. And I had what is called a mental and emotional breakdown. All the unresolved childhood trauma, sleeping in dark basements for a span of 12 years, eating from the garbage can, not feeling worthy and being tossed from different group home to group home. All those old feelings came up, mixed with all the present day things as an adult, all the bad decisions. I couldn't keep it together anymore. So I knew in this moment I need to go get some help. So when I went to therapy, my therapist said to me, Christopher, it wasn't your fault that you were abused. And I held that, and that did something to me. It unlocked some peace. And so I went home one day and I wrote down 3 words that changed my life: coffee, hip hop, and mental health. Coffee because my mental and emotional breakdown happened inside of a coffee shop, which became my breakthrough. It pushed me to go get some help. And then hip hop has been like therapy for me. Without hip hop, I would have killed myself a long time ago. And then mental health, well, because we don't talk about it in our community. So after having that moment in therapy, I started putting together all these incredible, beautiful sessions all throughout the city of Chicago. So many people started to say they needed help. So I started working on normalized therapy. That became a campaign, which is our mission, to normalize safe spaces, right? So we opened up a beautiful coffee shop right in the heart of Lakeview. We sell coffee and merchandise to fund our biggest mission, which is Normalized Therapy University. Yes, we take profits from the coffee shop to raise awareness, but also to pay therapists so people in the city of Chicago who are struggling can find some help, right? They can go to our program online, Normalized Therapy University, sign up, and get 5 free sessions on us. So thank you, Lakeview and the city of Chicago, for helping us open up these doors. So when you buy a cup of coffee, you don't just buy a cup of coffee, but you're helping us change the city of Chicago by helping those who are struggling both emotionally and mentally.
Now this week, Christopher Lamarck announced that Coffee, Hip Hop, and Mental Health must relocate from their Lakeview storefront by September 15th and is raising funds to pay for the move and rebuilding. You can find more details on that on our website. And before we go tonight, Chicago DJ and producer Javante Wheeler, better known as Squeak Pivot, was shot and killed on Monday. His uncle Darian Hood was also killed in the same shooting. The 26-year-old was a member of the West Side-based hip-hop collective Pivot Gang with rapper Saba. We spoke with MTV News correspondent Doma T. Pongo, who shared a memory from an interview he did with Squeak and the collective back in 2019.
I asked every member of the group, what is your favorite song? And most of them just talked about the music, they talked about the song. When you ask Squeak, what's your favorite song? He says Colbert, he made the drums. He said, I just made the drums. I sent it to Dayoud and said, make it pretty. but I was just happy I did a meal with my brothers, 1 million views with my brother Fresh Waters. Every answer came back to family, came back to his brothers. And, you know, there are a lot of artists whose egos allow them to bring the attention back to themselves. He wasn't that guy, man. He's just a good dude.
Now, Squeak and Pivot member MFN Mello's most recent release was a collaborative EP titled En Route, which was released this past June. And that's our show for this Sunday night. Join Paris Schutz and Brandis Friedman this week at 7 on Chicago Tonight. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, Black Voices, I'm Angel Ito. Thank you for sharing a part of your weekend with us. Stay healthy and safe. Good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm named on the 2021 expertise list of the best personal injury attorneys in Chicago.